Hi, this is Randy Blalock. Thank you for tuning back into my website, and today we're going to explore a little bit of the walk that I took that day that generated the idea for the book, The Many Walks of Life. I call it my walk through history, and I hope you'll enjoy the pictures and the narration that follows. Growing up in southeast Atlanta, as I did, literally only about 500 yards from where the Battle of Atlanta started during the Civil War, I've always been a Civil War buff and history nut. When I was a kid, I found artifacts all over the place in my yard and in my playground area, which was across the street at the high school that we'll visit in just a moment. But my walk through history that day on July 22nd, 2014 started at the intersection of Wilkinson Drive and Glenwood Drive in southeast Atlanta. Here you're looking at the monument to General William Walker. He was the first Confederate officer that was killed during the Atlanta campaign, we'll call it, because technically the Battle of Atlanta had not started as of this moment when he was killed. It was early the morning of July 22nd, and a Union sniper, a Union soldier who had been separated from his unit, shot and killed General Walker as he was inspecting his troops that morning. You can see the field there that has been cleared off now, but imagine in your mind, if you will, in 1864, this was nothing but wooded area, and the sniper was off behind some of those large trees in the background of this picture, and shot and killed General Walker. So that continues my walk up Wilkinson, and we come to a location which was just one of the most memorable experiences in my childhood and early youth, teenage years, because I spent so much time at the Cab Memorial Park. A community swimming pool was located there, but the thing that was most important to me as we walked on down was to revisit the location where the baseball fields were located that I spent many hours during my youthful summers. This is what the old DeKalb Memorial Baseball Field, the Babe Ruth Park, looks like now. Of course, obviously it's totally cleared and the fences in the outfield are gone now, and here you can look at an overhead view of the fields as they were back in the early 60s, and you can see how widespread this was. There was a Little League field to the right, and then of course again the big Babe Ruth facility there in the center. Back behind that, you can see the community swimming pool. This is very interesting now because as I took this walk, that entire area is nothing but woods now, and of course that was a concrete swimming pool, and they must have just totally dismantled it and brought bulldozers in and dug it totally up out of the ground, because it was very unique to see nothing but trees located where the community swimming pool used to be. To the top of this picture, you can see I-20. To your left is the Glenwood exit, and this is traveling up toward the Maynard Terrace exit. Very small in the right corner of the picture, you can see just a faint glimmer of the Murphy High School baseball field, just the left field area that's located there. And once again, if my summers weren't spent at the Cab Memorial, they were spent around these areas where the baseball field of Murphy is located. We come to an area that I climbed up a big hill to get to the back of Murphy High School. The picture that you're looking at now, the fenced-in area, is now a girls' softball league that is played there. But this was actually the location of the football practice field. I didn't play football, but the area that you see that's now paved was a running track, and being a basketball and baseball player, we did venture around that track a good bit for conditioning. And it's kind of interesting that now where the old football practice field is, there's a softball baseball facility, and where the baseball field is now a youth football field. So they swapped places now, but my mind still tells me that this is where I would go out and see the guys working hard with their pads on and practicing football to get ready for a Murphy football season. This picture is kind of difficult to really ascertain exactly what it is, but I talk about this area in the book. Back in the 60s, when I went to Murphy High School here, none of these trees were located here. This is what we call the hill, and it doesn't look as intimidating as it was to us back then. But this hill is pretty straight up, and the football coaches particularly use this both for punishment reasons and for conditioning reasons, because you can imagine how difficult it was after a hard day of practice to run up this field fully in pads. It really wore you out, and you knew that you better not mess up, because the coaches wouldn't have any problems with sending you up that hill 3, 4, 5 times, and you'd be exhausted. We used it a little bit from a basketball conditioning. We'd wear weights, and we'd have to run up and down the hill, but still not quite as much as the football players had to use. The next picture that you're looking at is a view of Murphy High School as it appears in about 1964. I believe that is when this picture was actually taken. It's significant to me because, of course, I walked up those steps many times, and I also relate in the book a significant historical event that took place during my years of high school at Murphy, and that's when we desegregated, and the 2 young ladies who began going to Murphy High School in 1962 under police guard walked up these steps, and I can almost still visualize them walking up those steps. The next picture, however, is how it looks today, as it appears under its new name of Crim Comprehensive. It is now a place where individuals who want to go back and obtain their GEDs can go, and it's gone through a couple of transformations, and it doesn't look physically like it did back in the 60s when I went to high school there, but it still has its flavor to me and significant impact to me. The next picture is a picture of the gym. Of course, the lettering up there does designate Crim, but I will always remember it as J.C. Murphy Gymnasium, where, again, I spent many hours playing and practicing basketball and pep assemblies and all the other type of assemblies that you would go to for high school situation, and just again some great memories. As I did my walk, I took the opportunity and the chance to walk through those hallowed halls of Murphy, and one of the first things you notice, or I noticed, was, of course, the halls look so much larger than they do in my mind's eye, but maybe perhaps that's because they were always filled with kids scurrying to and from classes, trying to make their class before the late bell rang. And the second point is that these halls used to be filled with lockers. There was lockers on the left and right side of these halls, and in fact, this location and shot that you're looking at is about where my high school locker was for at least my last 2 years of high school. To the right, on the right-hand side there, very near that red exit sign that you can see above. And my walk continued as we went through the halls, and the shot here is of the cafeteria. As doesn't look again as it did then, but I can recall that my general table was back under what looks to be a painting back there in the left-hand corner of the gym, right before you get to the windows there. A group of 5 or 6 guys would meet every day, and that's where we would have lunch. Once again, the front view of the cafeteria is nothing like it appeared back in the 60s, because you see the sign there. You can have salad work, or to the right, I think that says chef's choice. We didn't get much of a choice. It was mystery meat or peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that was just about the only options that we were able to have. Next shot is of a typical classroom. It was locked, and so the shot is taken through the wired windows there. This looks to be an old lab, perhaps a chemistry or physics classroom up on the second floor of the high school. After I left the high school during my walk, I then kind of concentrated on picking back up with the Battle of Atlanta. And of course, here you see the historic marker that's located on Memorial Drive and Clay Street, where the official first shots of the Battle of Atlanta took place. The Confederate soldiers, their main goal was to try to retake some of the rail lines, some of the transportation lines back from the Union Army that had obtained them during some skirmishes that had taken place. And the significant point for that, for the Union soldiers, was that if they took away the transportation lines from the Confederate troops, then their supplies would be totally cut off. And if they could do that, with Atlanta being one of the major southern hubs, they felt like that would be the end of the war. And as it proved to be, it was probably one of the most significant factors in the Union finally taking over. Then I had the opportunity to stand in front of what was my house at 1684 Memorial Drive. Still remember vividly. As you can see, the house is in pretty poor condition now. They had a fire there. The fire plays a role in the book, The Many Walks of Life, and I'll let you, the reader, obtain that information and go through the book and hopefully enjoy it and see what impact that had. But cannot begin to relate the wonderful experiences that I had here. I was an only child, and so I spent a lot of this time playing in the front yard. I cannot tell you how many times I would bounce a rubber ball, trying to improve my baseball fielding skills off those front steps. And we had a screened front door, and my dad would continuously get mad at me because sometimes the ball would go back up and go right through that the screen, or tear the screen out. So we had to replace that several times, generally at my expense. And then the next shot is just a shot of the backyard. It's amazing how your mind plays tricks, and that backyard when you're 10 years old, 12 years old, seemed like it was huge, particularly when I was cutting the grass, you know, on a hot summer day. But now it looks relatively small. If you look real hard, you can see a brick little edifice right there in the center. That was a little swimming pool that my dad built for me when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I call it swimming pool. It was nothing more than a little wading pool where you could go sit in and be a little cool during hot summer days. But once again, I thought that was a massive swimming pool when I was 5 and 6 years old. He later turned that into a garden area that looked very attractive in the backyard. So after spending considerable time there at the house, just going back and reflecting, I walked down Memorial Drive just a few hundred yards and came upon an area that housed two major projects. One was called Atlantic Thrift Center. It was an old discount store. We lovingly referred to it as Atlantic No Count instead of Atlantic Discount. The quality of their goods was not very great, but it was also one of the first places where I worked part-time to try to collect a little bit of money. But this shop that you're looking at was a great gathering spot for many of us as we got up into our high school years. This was called Rinaldi's Bowling Center, and it was unique in that not only did it have 10-pin lanes, but it had what was a new concept to many of us. It was called duck pins, and some of you may be familiar with that. I have no idea what this building is used for now. It's obviously being utilized for something because there's some cars out there parked in front, but that was a special place for us to gather and bowl a few frames and have fun time fellowshipping. And then finally, when I made it back to my car, I drove around the great area that we know of as East Atlanta. This shot that you see here is the home place of my best friend growing up, Kenny Mosley. He and his brother Scott and I spent a lot of time together, and that room to the right there was Ken and Scott's bedroom, and so we would spend a lot of time there playing guitar and talking about baseball and doing all sorts of things that the kids do. But if he ever watches this, I thought it'd be neat for him to see his old home place as well on William Street. And then the final shot is a memorial to a Union officer, General James McPherson, who was shot and killed on that fateful day during the Battle of Atlanta. He is the second highest ranking Union officer that was killed during the entire Civil War conflict, and it happened just about this location where the marker is located on the corner of McPherson and Monument Avenue in East Atlanta. Always thought that it was kind of unique that we would honor a Union official, but Union officer, but there it is, and it should be duly noted because again he had a significant impact, being the second highest ranking officer. Kind of a unique and strange way that he was killed. I'll just mention that very quickly. He was doing some scouting, and he thought that the Union officials, the Union Army, had kind of secured this area, but he actually fell into a group of Confederate soldiers, and he tried to turn around and escape from from their shots, but was not successful in doing so, and was shot and killed on this spot and on this location. So after I went here, I toured back through East Atlanta, and unfortunately didn't take any shots of that great area where, again, I spent many wonderful hours, particularly at the old Madison Theater on Saturday afternoons, watching movies with my schoolmates. So that pretty much completed my walk on July 22nd, 2014, a very memorable day that is, again, detailed very heavily in my book, The Many Walks of Life, and I appreciate you joining me on this little walk today, and hopefully if it has piqued your interest, you'll go read the entire book so you can read the rest of it about that. Thank you very much for listening and for viewing these pictures.